Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to crumble!
I'm Joshua Kemble, and welcome to Joshua Kemble's Livestream. I've been a freelance illustrator and graphic designer for over 20 years. I was an art director for 9 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on illustrations and graphic designs, I'm working on comic books and graphic novels, and that's usually what I do during my streams. And while conversations can go all over the place on this stream, from spicy and entertaining to goofy and silly, one thing stays consistent throughout every stream. I'll always be working on art. So pull up a chair, get your art supplies out, and get ready for an entertaining show that'll keep you company while you work on your own personal art projects. This is Joshua Kemble's Art Stream. All right, welcome to my live stream. I'm Joshua Kemble, and I'm on a deadline, so I've been working pretty hard the last few days. And also, I have 2 prep periods that I have to get ready for teaching during the summer. So it's going to be an interesting few days. But if I look exhausted and underslept and stuff, it's because I am. We are working on page 112 of Not Death But Love, the Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. And if you're just tuning in and you haven't checked these albums out, I'd encourage you guys to check out The Worst Places to Work, which is my new album that was released about 4 days ago. And then my new album from a couple weeks ago called They Don't Care About the Born. They're getting more listeners, which is pretty exciting on streaming platforms. And I am really proud of those songs. And the Worst Places to Work is themed around bad work environments. And then basically, I'm working on a new album, and I already have the theme kind of in mind. It's going to be like a horror rock and roll album where I'm going to take like a color and mix it with a horror figure and then apply that to contemporary times. And so I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm going to play you guys 2 of those songs. They're not mastered yet, but they're just demos. But I'm excited about that. So that's kind of something to look forward to on this stream today. And then the other thing is we're just going to basically work on shading page 112. I'm going to be live streaming till about 2:30 today, and then I'm going to be putting together a lesson plan for Monday. And then after that, I'll probably be just streaming all weekend, working on this. There's some freelance that I have to get done. And then there's about 4 more pages of comics after this page is shaded and colored. So I have no idea how I'm going to get through this weekend on deadline, but it's going to be a pinch, and that's half the fun of cartooning is just kind of making it work however you can. So that's what we're going to be working on. So let's get into drawing. Hi, Ben. How you doing, bud? My son is working on some Among Us figures with his mom. Like, they're drawing some custom Among Us figures, which is pretty awesome. And also, I watched the presidential debate, and that was interesting. So I'm going to probably talk about that a little bit too. But in the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and he's working on drawing and stuff in the background. And then his mom is actually on a deadline too. So we're just in crunch time. All right. So let's just get into it. So this is page 112 of Not Death But Love, the strange supernatural story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, the book I'm doing for Turner Publishing. So we're going to get into shading this page, and then hopefully coloring it, and getting as much as much done on comics as we can, um, on to kind of stay on deadline for the book. So um, I don't know how you guys do it, authors out there. I don't know how you guys do it, but I'm trying. All right. I think the trick is you just don't sleep. That's got to be kind of the trick behind all this stuff. So before we get into anything, let's work on shading this, and I'll play you guys the very rough cuts of the next two songs for the next album. That's going to be a horror themed album, and we'll start with song number 1, and this song is about ghosts. And it's very corny. It even has like a moment where it goes ooh, because that's part of the horror themed thing that I want to do too. Is just have like very cheesy kind of horror-ish sounds in the background of the songs as well. So I'll play you guys that, and then we'll work on shading this while we listen. All right, so I think I'm going to call that probably Gray Ghost, because again, it's going to be themed on horror stuff. So, but applying it to real things. So that's kind of the twist. Is there's going to be a color, there's going to be a horror figure, and then it's going to apply to something real, but still kind of keep the cheesy, fun like horror theme to it musically. So I've been really enjoying kind of working on that. There's been something really liberating and fun about these solo albums I've been working on. Um, and also, I don't know what unlocked recently with music, but I've been just like super inspired to like nonstop write and record music. And I think part of it is because music is like a way to reset and not get like super stressed about impending deadlines and like all sorts of other stuff. There's something very immediate about the process of making music that I think is very rewarding and kind of balances out the laborious long process of working on comics and stuff like that. So that song about ghosts, as an example, is kind of talking about like how it's funny because it's cheesy and it even has like a moment where it goes ooh, but there's like a serious side to it where it's about kind of collecting ghosts as we age and get older. Like we're basically all collecting ghosts. We're all future ghosts, and that we're collecting memories that kind of don't totally disappear when people pass. And so that's kind of my twist on the idea of ghosts as being like followed by the memories of people we lost and then eventually becoming those future memories. So so like all of my work, it's like there's some tongue-in-cheek fun, but there's a more serious side to it. Also, by the way, if I look crazy right now, I get allergies so bad during the summer, and so I am getting like mad allergy attacks the last few days. So, but work doesn't wait for allergies. But I just want you guys to know if I look a little haggard, if that is even a word, that's kind of what's going on. Um, let's see here. So what we're doing is I'm looking at the rough that I have, uh, which I have down here, right? So I print out my roughs. I keep them right in front of, like right under the screen, right, while I'm working. And then I've talked about this before. When you're working on a book that's visual, it's good to like have printouts as you're working on it so you can work on your signatures and make sure that your recto and verso pages are actually like lined up. Everything's good to go. The colors don't look totally off. Keep in mind when you print out stuff at home on like a CMYK printer, if it's an inkjet or any other printer, there's usually going to be about 10% variation in what you're seeing on your own printer to what you're actually going to see on like an offset printer. And so I always kind of keep that in mind, but it's a nice way. Here, I'll just grab it. So it's a nice way to kind of keep like this is the book so far in sequence. And what I do is I'll just like print out the side and then I'll arrange it so I can even read through it, So it's like there's that. The other sides, I can look at the spreads and I can make sure that what I'm working on right now is in the flow of the story. Also, it's really a lot quicker if I need to reference a previous page, because once you start getting into like hundreds of pages, and now I have to bring a character that was somewhere in like page 30. It actually might even take more time for me to look through like JPEGs and just wait for the data to kind of catch up than it would be to just flip through it and go, okay, it's on this page, and then I know where to pull it from there. So that's something I've been doing for a long time with comics, is like kind of printing them out as I go, just to make sure that Dylan said your voice sounds a bit deeper than normal, so it's probably your allergies. I think it's that and just a lack of sleep because I've been I've been on crazy crunch time. And then last minute, I took a teaching gig for the summer. So like my my regular schedule, which was already kind of hectic dealing with a deadline, is now dealing with a deadline and then also prepping two classes for Monday. And so it's just been crunch time. It's all good stuff. I have some freelance that I have to do too for a client that's a really good client. They've hired me to do a couple book covers for them in the past, and it's always a really fun job. Generally, it's drawing cool robots, which is really fun. But I have some roughs that I owe them, and then my wife is on like a crazy book deadline too, where I think she has like four books that 4 to 5 books. I can never quite keep track that she has to get done by the end of the month. And so yeah, it's been fun because it's like I think part of the this is a weird thing, and then I definitely want to talk about the presidential debate because that's a disconcerting thing that happened recently, where it's like I've had a few moments in my life where I've looked at things and been like, is this my country? Like, what weird like pseudo reality do we live in where we're watching a habitual liar who has no concern for fact checking, and by the way, like is in a debate environment where I guess they no longer like I remember watching presidential debates years ago, and they had to be really sly if they were going to lie during presidential debates. Don't get me wrong, candidates always lie, politicians always lie, but they'd have to be really smooth about it if they were going to do that during a presidential debate, because generally the guys they'd have like moderating it, if you said a lie and there was like a debate over a truth issue that was provable, the journalist doing the moderation would cut in and go, well, that's not true. And then, they'd end up like talking to the moderator or whatever. And sometimes like you'd have a back and forth, but most presidential debates I've seen in my lifetime, that's somewhat happened as much as it can. And this was the first one where I've just watched them just let the presidents just kind of work out what truth is, which is so weird to me because I'm like the point of the press during a presidential debate, is not just to moderate like some little like or a Twitter feud, where you can start talking about what reality is. When it comes to like provable facts, like economic numbers, stuff like that. Um, and and that was one of the first debates where I saw just no effort on the part of the press to even do that. Now I'm sure that probably had something to do with the debate parameters that both candidates agreed to. But yeah, so it's one of the first debates where I've seen where there was no moderation when it came to facts. So that's huge because you have one candidate who's orange and just lies through his teeth. Like within the first question that was asked, there were like 10 lies in a minute, and to an extent I can understand if you're moderating Trump, you kind of can't call him on lies because that's all he does. And then now I got to be honest because I'm just an honest guy. Joe Biden is possibly dying. Like, I don't know. He his faculties were not there. And keep in mind, like, I haven't slept overnight and my voice has gotten deeper. I've been working on comics like a madman the last day or two. And so I probably don't sound at my full faculties, but to be able to, the amount of uh, giving the full generosity to Biden, he looked like I'd be concerned if that were my grandpa. If that were my grandpa, I might be having conversations with family about homes, and stuff like that. And that was concerning. But here's the thing. Here's my take on it. I mean, first off, I think we're in a world now. I don't know how much debates really affect the outcome of elections, especially in this modern age, because I don't know if people remember, but like back when Hillary Clinton was running, and I've never been a huge Hillary Clinton fan, but those debates between Hillary Clinton and Trump were like it just if the debates had any if debate performance had any effect on an outcome, it definitely wasn't existent in Trump's term, because he got just buried alive in those debates. And also just like all he did was like ad hom and lie, and it was really transparent and obvious. And so like I think to most people watching, we were just like, nobody, like, well, he's done. There's no way Americans are gonna, having watched that debate, come out of it thinking like this was like two candidates that were prepared. It was clearly one guy who's like a huckster who's lying through his teeth very badly, getting called out on it, resorting to ad homs all the time, and then one candidate who, like her or not, like had tons of foreign policy experience and came across as really competent and ready to lead the country, whether you liked her or not. And so I was like, well, I mean, clearly, like, Americans aren't going to fall for that, and they didn't care. And that was that debate. So watching this, I do see it with the lens of, I don't know what world we exist in, where we have two ancient old men. Dylan was saying one of the snippets I saw, Biden looked like he was going to fall asleep. And he said, I wonder if they have a little buzzer or mic to wake him up. Biden didn't just look like he was going to fall asleep. He looked like he was going to die. Like he was not healthy. Like he just didn't, he looked like the throes of, like he was at death's door, which is really sad, because I've never been a huge Biden guy. I've been pleasantly surprised with his administration and their performance, and what they've been able to accomplish legislatively, and his dealing with Ukraine, whether that's like him being held up as a puppet and it's his administration that have been, making such wise choices. I've been impressed with his presidency, and surprised by it, because, going into it, like I really thought, I mean, man, the U.S. was in a bad position when Trump left office. And that's why it's so shocking to me that the rewriting of history is so bizarre. Recent history that we've lived through, that we all know better about. It's like when Trump's talking about leaving this great economy, and it's like, dude, when he left office, we were in a global pandemic. Like the economy was shattered. Inflation was through the roof. It was bad. It's like, it was really bad. Taxes were higher for contractors. So like for people like me, I paid a lot in taxes. Like, under Trump. Like, and if I had been wealthier, I would have probably gotten less taxes. But watching that debate, it was like it. So here's my point: is I do kind of feel like watching that. I was like, I think there's a bit of a Weekend at Bernie's thing going on. If you guys remember the movie from the '80s, where it's pretty much like there's a wealthy dead man. I can't. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I believe it's like a wealthy relative of these two young kids or whatever, and they go to visit him, and then he dies. And then they end up deciding to kind of pretend that he's alive, and they kind of rig it up to like puppeteer him as a as a living person. And it's kind of like a comedy where it's just like half of the setup is, oh, this will be funny because, you know, it just gives a lot of like pratfalls and stuff like that because they have the main actor pretend that he's dead for a while, right? Thomas Adams was saying Weekend at Bernie's. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's kind of what's going on. But here's the thing. It's a testament to how bad Trump was as a president that you can't what's apparently, and again, people have to remember, like, look back at Biden's performance debating Trump last time. Biden, you know, like him or dislike him, again, I was one of those guys who was like, I really liked Bernie Sanders and I liked Andrew Yang. Those were my two favorite candidates, you know, very much like internet candidates, but those were my two candidates. Those were my guys that I was kind of hoping would succeed. And so to me, as a left leaning individual, I was not pleased, nor were most of my friends or family, or people I knew that leaned my way. None of us were like stoked about Biden. Like, I think we were relieved because it's kind of a scenario where if you go back in history, right, and let's say they had run a corpse against Hitler, you know, pre Reichstag fire, right? Would you have voted for Hitler because the other candidate was a corpse? To me, the threat to our democracy, the obvious threat to our democracy that Trump presents, I'll vote for a corpse. I literally would vote for a corpse. Dylan said I'm going to vote for RFK Jr. I can't vote for RFK Jr. because he's an anti-vaxxer and like he's like a left-ish version of Trump. Like he lies just as much. And so it's like here's my problem. And also that's just giving Trump more possibilities of winning. Here's my problem. We're just screwed. I mean, like, we have two ancient men who, you know, half of the debate we're talking about like their golf game. So two ancient rich men. One who will commit any kind of fraud to keep in power, and if we reelect, like, if Trump gets back in office, there may not be an office. I've never had that thought about any right-leaning candidate. I wasn't a big fan of George W. Bush, but at no point in my voting life was I concerned that George W. Bush was going to coup the government and retain power and set up a democracy or an authoritarian rule. I mean, we might have hyperbolized about stuff like that, but that's the thing with everything previous, it was hyperbole. Whereas if you look at Trump's team right now, I mean, their plan for his like second term is like all the seeds for a dictatorship. And I think I've talked about this before. I'm no longer convinced that I don't think his supporters care. I think they don't like the left. They're angry about social conservative issues that they pick and choose about because they're not. It's not like they're consistent with these issues, right? It's like they're really concerned about families and family values and stuff like that. Therefore, they have to vote for one of the few wins in that debate that Biden managed to eke out before rigor mortis set in. One of the few wins wins that he got through was calling Trump out on just trying to morally grandstand when he slept with a porn star while his wife was pregnant and then paid her off so that she wouldn't talk during his election campaign. I mean, that's just fact. It's gone through the court systems multiple times. It's not just this one time where like the courts were like, yeah, that happened. The incident has, and then the repercussions and the lying and the payoff and stuff. That's the most recent court case regarding it. But anyhow, so I'm watching this debate and I'm like, so we have a candidate that's just past viability. Like he's a, you're basically voting for his administration because he's kind of out of the picture. And then you have another candidate who literally is very blatantly, openly wanting to overthrow the democracy and have like a nationalist authoritarian dictatorship and cozies up to dictators and is just one of the most morally repugnant human beings that's ever lived. Like one of the most selfish, just horrible humans. And that's our candidates. And I saw somebody on Twitter. Again, this is not really the best time to go on Twitter. Is there ever a good time to go on Twitter? But I did see a funny meme on Twitter, and it wasn't so funny. It was kind of tragic, where it was showing Romney and Obama debating. And it's civil, and obviously they had some low blow moments and disagreements and stuff, but they actually talked about policy a little bit. They actually talked about like strategic differences rather than just throwing insults at each other. And it was a somewhat substantive debate, as substantive as it used to get. They've never been fully substantive. But comparing that to the cartoon of what we just saw, I have never in my lifetime seen a worse, just a worse slate of candidates. Like it's literally, we're watching Mussolini debating a corpse. That's what that was. And it's like, I don't know what America cares more about. Like, to me, my take on it is if they put a pet rock up against Trump, when you have a president who's shown their true colors, and I think some of this might just be a lack of history, like historical understanding. A lot of people think that when dictators rise to power, it's often, I think people have this cartoonish vision of it, like coups all happen like crazy violently, and it's really obvious to people at the time that like their democracy is completely destroyed. And no, it's not. How it usually happens is you get a guy like Trump in office who's willing to do things like create false slates of electors, try to strong arm supporters, and is willing and ready to do those things, and a little more capable, which is the scary part about a second term of Trump. Um, because like the one thing that's been good about Trump that's historically different from a lot of these great dictators of the past, and by great I just mean like in the historical sense, like they did terrible things, but they were big terrible things. He's kind of incompetent, so there's that. So like he's never really been a really good business person. He is very compelling and hilarious, but he's not like substantively a real like competent guy. And he wasn't that good at his plans. Like his plans, he's announcing beforehand. You can see how he kind of works, like in this last debate, because they were kind of hedging initially going into it, like getting their supporters ready to alter reality if it didn't go as terribly as it did, which it did. It went awful. I mean, Biden bombed. But before that, they were saying, like, oh, Biden's going to be on these performance enhancing drugs. If Trump loses, it's because, like, there's an unfair advantage in CNN. And, like, they were already paving the landscape for when Trump failed, because they were saying, they kind of pre-laid the roadmap for that. And they've done that consistently. Like, before the election, they did the same thing, where they paved the way for the loss, so that his delusional supporters will just kind of go for whatever like narrative they want to spin after it, right? Where it's like, well, I mean, if Trump wins, there's definitely no fraud there. Like somehow the truth came through, but if he loses, it's fraud. I mean, it's definitely, there's a lot of talk of that, and it was so obvious and transparent. The scary thing is, historically, though, like it's not like all dictators just kind of instantly take power, and a lot of these things are real similar to things in the past, and the only thing that kind of prevented our democracy from really getting just toppled over was the fact that his administration, luckily there were a couple people with a backbone, including the VP that he had selected. But in round two, I don't think he's going to make that mistake. I think in round two, he's going to pick a sycophant VP, and he's going to just pick yes men and surround himself with that. And Trump, surrounded by yes men that will just kind of do whatever, that's the recipe for the destruction of our democracy. So here's the thing I'm having trouble with on the left, being a person who's a little more left leaning, especially just considering how compromised and morally compromised the right has become. I mean, Biden's a very ancient guy. Like, and I had believed the idea that he might still be competent, and a lot of that was propaganda, partially because of the idea that, like the right has been spinning that narrative for a long time, and falsely for most of the time, where they'd show like a clip and be like, look how old he is and wild, and then you'd see the full clip and you're like, oh, they just cut it out of context. But that debate was not out of context. It's like, no, the guy's clearly he's knocking on heaven's door, okay? um, yeah. So now it's like a scenario of we have to choose between two old white men, and both are not mentally there. Like one is a narcissistic dictator or pseudo dictator, possibly soon to be, who will literally create challenges to the potential of us ever having elections again. Or we'll have elections, but let's say present challenges to anybody opposing uh, that candidate from ever being able to really have an election again. Like a guy who might potentially turn us into a Soviet Union style kind of scenario, right? Where it's it's, or I should say Russia, because the Soviet Union's only really potentially going to come back. That's the other thing about Trump, is he's a fan of Putin. He's, enjoyed the idea of letting Ukraine just get steamrolled. And, he does lip service to saying that's not the case, but there's audio of him saying he'd tell Putin to just roll over whoever Putin wants to if they aren't paying up. He's got like a mob mentality, right? Like, you got to pay for protection, that kind of stuff. By the way, this is lining up my next song for the horror thing, too. If you guys think, oh, why is he on this political thing? So it's a depressing place to be, because if I look back at the difference between like Romney versus Obama when they were running, I don't think anybody watching that was like, wow, like, nobody, no, even at the time, I wasn't a fan of Romney. But I never watched Romney talk and thought, wow, this guy is pure evil. I might have thought that some of his policies were evil, but I never like watched those and just felt like the surge of just pure evil. and I never thought either candidate was a complete idiot. Like, I just never thought like, oh, they're completely stupid. Whereas right now it's like Biden's always been very sharp, but at this point, that's not Biden on that stage. At least that wasn't Biden on that stage. So now I can no longer say that I feel like Biden is sharp. I think he's made good decisions for the most part, with some failures for sure. But I don't think he's firing on all cylinders. Let's put it that way. Like, there might be the husk of a intelligent person there. And then the other is, I think I see somebody who's a shrewd idiot. Does that make sense? Like a master manipulator who's not a smart guy, which is Trump. Trump is smart, but he's not. I don't think at any point in his life would he be passing a lot of competency tests, except for maybe narcissistic personality disorder, being really very effective at narcissism. So I don't know. Watching that debate, and then like thinking about other candidates that are somewhat prominent, like RFK, who's a conspiracy theorist. What I just don't understand what's happened to our country. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like watching that. It was sad. It was sad to see. It's always been bad when it comes to any candidates. Generally, you're always kind of picking the lesser of two evils. And in this case, unfortunately, I think the lesser of two evils is a zombie that's going to basically it's a dying man, um because at least that guy uh has no interest in completely destroying what exists in our country, whereas the other guy has his finger over a button that is going to just destroy, like, literally change our democracy. And if you don't doubt that, check out the recent Supreme Court discussions, right? And it's been fascinating, to watch them. I don't know how many people have actually watched those about executive immunity, right? Where it's like we're literally, like, right now we have a Supreme Court that is seriously considering the possibility that a president of the United States is pretty much above the law. Like, they're seriously considering it. And I don't mean like above the law in general. I mean like literally, like, if you are president, you can commit whatever act you want, whatever crime you want, because you're the God King at that point. Full executive immunity. That's being discussed in the Supreme Court. Partially, I think any time in the past, any other Supreme Court, that would have been thrown out, right or left. The notion that a president of the United States can commit whatever felony, whatever crime, whether for personal or non-personal gain. If anybody like Trump's lawyer, who was making this argument for the Supreme Court that the president is pretty much above the law, any other Supreme Court in the history of our country, would have thrown that out laughing. Like, I don't even think it would have been considered. But we have two candidates that, like, and now we have a Supreme Court, partially thanks to our orange friend, that's seriously considering giving full executive immunity. Right? That's happened recently. So yeah, it's bizarre, and I don't know where our country is. I don't know where we go from there. But I did record. Dylan said, "No one is above the law. What are they thinking?" Well, that's not what Trump's lawyers were arguing. Trump's lawyers were challenging the idea that the president can even be charged with a crime, whether personal or not. Like, they were saying, I don't think the president can be charged with a crime committed while they were in office. And I watched the entire, I think it was like an 8-hour, I can't even remember how long. It was long. It was hours at least, where it was a discussion between Trump's lawyers, the prosecution that was going to indict him for one of his many indictments, and then Trump's lawyer. And their main argument was trying to throw out the idea that you could even charge the executive with a crime committed while they were in office. So basically, if they were in office, they should be able to just have free reign to do whatever. Anyhow, so that's where we're at. And I don't know. Yeah, and then I gotta say that that debate was very depressing to see, because it unless Biden steps out, which I think if Biden does step out, I think that the left loses. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just think that's sadly the reality. let's say Biden like steps out because, you know, maybe his staffers or, you know, people like convince him like, hey, dude, you're like, you're at that point in life. Like it's that time. But if Biden steps out, which by the way, a lot of my very left leaning friends are like really eager to see that happen. And I'll admit, like, I think that would be great on paper, but in reality, when you have the incumbency and you have a strong, like, here's the sad part. Whether Biden's a corpse or not, like, we don't have out of control inflation anymore. We don't have a global pandemic anymore. We have the best jobs scenario that America's been in. There's just like you know, we have a slightly increased deficit, but compared to how extreme the increase of the deficit was under Trump, it's just not even comparable. And we've been supporting Ukraine, and you know, doing some things that I think are really good. So whether he's a corpse or not, like, he's got a strong case to be reelected because he's left the country in a stronger position than he came in. If you take a candidate like that, whether they're, again, and you know, this, I don't like this fact, but I just think this is probably true. If you take a candidate like that and you have them step out, and now you have the incumbent out of the picture, you lose the incumbent advantage, corpse or not, especially the incumbent advantage when they're coming from a strong position, at least numbers wise, right? Where it's like, dude, our economy is not trashed like it was when Trump left office. And Trump always claims like everything was great. It's like, no. I'm not one of the Kool-Aid drinking supporters. I lived through it. I remember the pandemic shutting everything down, the economy being in ruins, you know, Chinese products being overtaxed. So it basically caused financial troubles for like most American manufacturers. I remember that stuff. So I'm not going to be fooled to think that the economy right now is comparable to where it was when Trump left office. That's just not the case. Trump destroyed the economy temporarily. And it was one of the worst jobs performances by the time he left office. Then I think it was mentioned Herbert Hoover, one of the few, again, salient points that our corpse candidate made during the Dylan was saying, before Biden was sworn in, my dad and I went shopping at Walmart, and he said we were in the toilet paper aisle, and there was a family behind us, the mom complaining about the price of toilet paper. Well, here's the thing. Yeah, that inflation train was starting. And yeah, and a lot of it was just how badly Trump dealt with the pandemic. Like he was a bad president. He wasn't even good for the supporters. He didn't even get the things he promised them done. He didn't get the wall built. He didn't stop immigration. He didn't handle any of the issues that he promised them. So, but yeah, so here's the thing that's weird is like, so then the left's in this weird position where on paper, Biden is the candidate they have to run. He has the incumbent advantage. The economy's not in ruins. You know, there's a strong record to run on, but it's a strong record to run on by a man who may not be fully competent to to argue it. So they're kind of between a rock and a hard place, because if they lose the incumbent advantage, then they lose that advantage of being able to argue the strong record that Biden has economically, and then Trump would get to play the experience card, and I think he wins 100%. I think he wins. I think if Biden steps out, I think Trump wins. I think if Biden stays in, I think it's likely that Trump might win. And what's weird is I think it's weird that we're in a reality where that's even the case, because it's just such a clear um, threat to our republic. Um, Having a president who's willing to deploy uh, the U.S. military in states, um, to override state autonomy by setting up false slates of electors, creating his own electoral college. So basically, overriding democracy, overriding the republic by overstepping state rights, by basically trying to strong arm states into lying for his benefit. Yeah, it's, having a re-election campaign where he's wanting to create a scenario of retribution for all of his detractors. Um, yeah, I don't like the fact that I live in a country where I thought for the briefest moment that I was in a country that liked America and that liked our Constitution. And while we might have disagreements and stuff, we all kind of like this liberal scenario we're in. And I don't mean liberal in the sense of like, you know, liberals. I mean liberal in the sense of liberal values where people can have their own religions and people can have freedom of speech, and we're not like in a scenario with a god king that you can't defy, that reality bends the rules around. I mean, if I seem like kind of dark when it comes to this topic, it's just I that debate was horrible. It's the worst debate I've ever watched, where Trump's just lying through his teeth, and his supporters, acknowledge that he lies all the time. They just think it's like hyperbole. They're like, yeah, I mean, he does say some things where it sounds like he wants to be a dictator, but it's just hyperbolic. Well, he did try to, you know, set up like his own electoral college, but you know, he didn't get away with it. Uh, and it's just him being wild. Who's to judge? He's a strange wild card, but we like him because he pisses off people on the left. I don't know. I just don't know anymore when it comes to the U.S. because I'm firmly convinced that I don't think his supporters love America. I just don't. Let's see here. I just got some messages. So anyhow, that's kind of where we're at. I am gonna take a break for a second, and then I'll play you guys another new song. And again, like I said, I'm doing a horror themed thing. Dylan said reality can be dark. Yeah, reality can be dark, and the scary thing is, again, like Biden gets reelected. Worst case scenario is it's more of the same. Um, but you have a system run by experts, like so you have generals running armies. You have advisors. You have uh, intelligent people kind of running the thing. And maybe that sucks, but it's better than one man ruling with an authoritarian power, which is what we end up with Trump. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel bad for the Democratic Party right now because it's like I just don't know how they navigate it, because it's like you can't have Biden out. you got to get his corpse to the finish line. Like he's done too well as a president to have him step down. Because he's got a strong record and he's an incumbent. It's like you have the biggest advantage in the world. Dylan was saying, hopefully that message is saying that you have a legal $1,000 deposit into your account. That would be amazing. So anyhow, I have to continue drawing this stuff. It's going to be fun. But right now I'm going to put on a trailer, and then we're gonna continue working on this, and I'll play you guys. Like I said, I have a horror themed album I'm working on where it's going to be a color and a specific kind of horror figure, and then applying that to present day, like real things. So we're going to play this, and then I will play you guys my awesome Orange Monster song relating to this. But it's fun. It's not as like hyperbolic as some of the stuff I've been talking about. Okay, I'm going to put on a trailer. And this trailer is going to be Frank's Adventures at the Library. I'll be right back.
Our heroic adventurers fought orcs, monsters, sorcerers, necromancers. Now they find themselves in front of a mystical library. What shall they find? It's all in the roll of the dice. We've come this far. There's great power behind this door. I can feel it. We just have to get past it. This door is no match for my axe. I shall chop it down. You always want to use brute strength. Why don't you try knocking? We'll try it your way. You may enter. The library is open to all those who seek knowledge. Feel free to look through our tomes. Maybe you'll find the answers you seek. I sense great power here, and it's behind those shelves. Indeed, there are powerful items hidden behind these shelves, but you can only get there through the enchanted words. Do you have those words? I believe I do.
Tremble before the Krembo.
There is great power. Look at that glove. Must be so powerful. That is not where I sense this power. I must get closer. I found them. I found these sacred manuscripts written by Joshua Kemble. Behold, I now possess 2 stories and Jacob's apartment. Please tell us more about 2 stories and Jacob's apartment, and who is Joshua Kemble? Xeric Award-winning cartoonist Joshua Kemble is a freelance artist, graphic designer, and author. 2 Stories is a confessional graphic memoir that grapples with questions of faith, mental illness, depravity, and ultimately redemption in a fallen world. Jacob's Apartment is a coming-of-age graphic novel in the vein of Ghost Road and Fun Home. It weaves together the threads of spiritual faith, identity, purpose, love, and loss to create an engrossing world in which waking and sleeping dreams collide. You have made your choice. The passage is now closed. Wait, can I get that glove? No. Oh. All right, let's go.
All right, so we are working on a page. We're working on page 112 of Not Death But Love, the Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and Shooting the Breeze. I just gave my thoughts on the presidential debate, where I just think we're in trouble, man. I think we're in trouble. I think in general, I just think like the right has gone so far that there's no care for like fact or reality. Like they're just in kind of a weird cult. Um, and then the left has no viable candidates. And my hope right now is let's just get that weekend at Bernie's across the finish line, so we still have a democracy, a democratic republic at the end of it. Yeah, but I don't know. It's a wild one. Speaking of our friend Mr. Trump, who again, like it's funny because everybody focuses on Biden's horrible performance during that debate, especially the right. Like, so here's a thing that I do, just because I'm a guy interested in, like I'm not moderate, to the point where I just don't see both sides as equivalent. But I do check in sometimes, quite a few times, to see what's going on in the spin room. Like, right? I don't actually watch a ton of mainstream media in general, but every once in a while I'll dip in just to see like what's the spin, like what's it like. And if I look at like CNN, right, they're talking about Biden's bad performance and then Trump's wild lies. And CNN does lean left. But what's interesting, if I go to any left leaning news outlet, they're still in reality to the point where nobody, as far as I'm aware, not even left leaning news outlets are pretending that was a great debate on Biden's end. They're still in reality enough to acknowledge like that was clearly, there were some moments of senility there, that I'll acknowledge. But if I go to like the right, like if I turn on like Fox News or OEN or anything like that, the narrative is just that Trump was just insanely strong, and that Biden is doomed, and did a horrible performance. But they're just kind of ignoring the fact that like Trump, uh, more than any politician I think in history, just everything he said was a complete lie. And not even like lies like that I think they'd agree with. Like not lies that are like distorting the economy or anything like that, but to the point of any challenge, it's like, oh well, that's just a bad Republican who said that, or that's just a, like, everything he said. I think there was maybe 2% truth in anything he said during that performance. It's just a guy clearly lying through his teeth about everything. And like provably so, not like in a weird slippery politician way, like no, just like provably just flat out lying about everything. And I don't see any acknowledgement of that, on like right wing outlets, any acknowledgement that like Trump is pretty deranged and old himself. Like these are two old, deranged men. One who's kind of hell bent on his own self advancement, because you know, and that's disturbing to me because um it I don't know, it should matter. It should matter to people who even philosophically don't agree with like left leaning principles or anything like that. But I don't think we have um that balance of power where it's like two oppositional uh frameworks that are kind of like where the founders were when we first had the parties split, right? Where it was kind of a debate over uh a few things, but we all kind of agreed on the idea of like, yeah, but we do want people to have freedom of religion and freedom of press and freedom of speech and stuff like that. Yeah, so dude, I don't know. Anyhow, speaking of our orange friend, here is the second track for the horror album I'm currently working on, and that is called Orange Monster, and it's a fun song about an orange monster. It's kind of surfy. So here it is. Check it out. Yeah, so that's Orange Monster. So for the horror album that I'm starting to work on, so the first one's Gray Ghost, right? The next one's Orange Monster. I might do one that's criticizing my own side, right? That's about zombies. Because again, like the whole theme of this is just to take any sort of horror monsters and creatures and stuff like that. Like I want to do one on vampires, you know. I definitely need like a creature from the Black Lagoon kind of thing, and then just tying it into more of like a real modern world thing, but still keeping some of the fun, spooky vibes Scott said it's giving me early Beastie Boys punk rock era vibe. Nice. I love the Beastie Boys, so there's nothing wrong with that. But thank you. I'll take that as a huge compliment. But yeah, so that's unmastered and stuff like that. But I'm having fun with this one. It's going to be a fun album, even though it'll get it might get political, it might get into serious topics and stuff. But it's all going to be very fun, with lots of sound effects too. Like I said, there's some themes and parameters that I want to kind of stick with the album. Where whatever monster it is, I want there to be monster noises. So in the case of the Ghost song, there's an ooh, and in this there's a roar. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty excited about it. I think it would be fun to do a music video for that has puppets. My wife recommended that, and I think that would be incredible. So yeah, so there's that. And one of the things that I like about the music thing is music's a much more immediate thing. Like when you're working on art, there is a very long, tedious process. Even with music, right, where there's a long, tedious process that's not as fun as the songwriting part. The songwriting part's fun, right? Because that's like fully creative. It's very immediate. It's very like feeling based. There's some theory behind it, but in general, you're kind of just playing with creativity. The hard part of music, like if you're doing that as like a day job, which thank goodness I'm not, is the rehearsals and the tightening up and the practicing and the relearning songs that you wrote in the studio. And practicing your performance for the live show, right? Like that's the hard part. Don't get me wrong, writing songs is not easy, but my point is that's the less immediate part of like a music career, right? Is the practicing for performance, for live performance. I think that's the part that's laborious. And then the touring and all that stuff. Oh yeah. Scott said, nice shirt, by the way. Yes. Young and the Dead. That's a comic by Scott Circlant. Yeah, so anyhow, there's something really fun about just doing the fun, immediate part of music, counterbalancing that with all this crazy like process stuff that just takes a long amount of time and is a different kind of voice of the art, right? Where it's like, this is very meticulous. It's very planned out. It's like, there's a lot of roughs and there's some like fun, immediate parts of it, but it's like, comics are a slog. Like a graphic novel is not a quick output, whereas like recording a song or writing a song, that can be real guttural. But I am enjoying right now, like at least on the music note, I think I'm enjoying the idea of doing themes for albums. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, it's been an intensely busy few days. It also doesn't help that the part of the script that I've been working on is it's been like crowd scenes. So in this case, it's like an open air market where there's a bunch of figures. It's not just dealing with like two figures or a lot of like close up panels with like faces or something like that. And this next set of pages is going to be a beast to get done if it weren't on a deadline, because it's like, there's a scene that takes place in another opera house So it's a big old crowd scene. There's a scene with a carriage being driven by oxen and two men on horses, with a landscape, and that's going to be a challenge. So it's a lot of challenging pages, not simple pages, which is fun. Again, I enjoy the process. It's just going to be a lot of work to get all these things done. But what did you guys think of my Orange Monster song? I'd love to hear it. I feel like it's fun. I think it's a fun song. I think it's catchy. So, and just imagine a video with, some Muppets that are dancing around, rocking out to it. Were I to have more time on my schedule, I would be making music videos for these things. But right now, there's about 20 things on my dock that I have to do, that I'm blessed to do, I should say, because these are not bad things. But it is a busy season. I've talked about this too. I don't know if you guys have noticed this in life. You have these times like right now, and I feel like Jacob's apartment, when I was knocking that out, was one of those times too, where you have a lot of opportunities pop up real fast. And so it's like this feast and famine thing with the creative life. And maybe not just the creative life, maybe just life in general, where you're going to have eras of feast and eras of famine. You're going to have times of just like crazy work and productivity, and then times where it's a little slower. It's like a little slower paced. And I've definitely crept back into a time of abundance for work. Like, obviously we're, still financially kind of getting through. But luckily there's an abundance of work, and there is a deficit of time. And so I don't know. And inspiration is running wild. Like, I'm not having trouble feeling the motivation to work. Like, the motivation's there. So I don't know. It's an interesting season, and one thing I've talked about before on different streams is I have learned through doing this for like 20 years, doing the creative life, is like you have to allow yourself to really rock these seasons, because you don't know when the next one will come, and similarly, opportunities, like when they come up, you don't have to, but I've found that like times like this, like I always remember grad school. Like when I was in graduate school, I was so busy with balancing freelance, writing a thesis, juggling like a million weird things, that I don't even have a very clear memory of that time, because it was just so chaotic. But in retrospect, when I look back at that time and all that I accomplished and what that did for my career and for my life, all the positive impacts that came out of that, just, what felt like one of the hardest things I'd ever done became one of the coolest opportunities later on, and led to a lot of great things. So, and a lot of growth, like a lot of personal growth. So I feel like this is definitely going to be one of those seasons of a lot of personal growth, a lot of wild, busy things coming up. But I also feel like it's important to kind of chase it. And also, while being in that process, and this is something maybe you guys can help me with, is as a bit of a workaholic, it's going to be hard for me to accept when a plate drops, because I will spin all the plates and juggle all the things. And if I drop a ball while juggling, I'm going to feel awful. And that's something I need to be better at, is just accepting the limitations of my humanity, and kind of rolling with it and doing the best I can. That's basically all you can do. But if you beat yourself up, like when you're, juggling, 50 million things, there's a good pressure and then there's a really unhealthy one. And I tend to tread that line. Historically, I've had trouble balancing that line and not getting a little too hard on myself for not quite achieving everything. And right now I'm heading into a point where, like, I'm just not going to do all this stuff perfectly. I'm going to do the best I can, and write it and see where it goes. Does that make any sense? I feel weird just rambling about that for a while, but we're getting there, guys. We're getting there. But yeah, so I was up pretty late working on this page, up into probably like 5 this morning. Not 5. I think it was 4 this morning. Getting the pencils done on this, and then slept till about 11. Yeah. But what I'm going to do is go for, I guess we may not be able to finish the full shading on this page, because I know that I need to have like a hard out around 2:30. And I'm going to say maybe even 2:20, because I need to eat. And then I have to go talk with some teachers that I know about setting up lesson plans for Monday. But I will tell you guys, and this is why you should be subscribed and you should hit that bell so you get notifications and stuff like that. I will be streaming a ton this weekend, because I have a lot of art I need to do, and I feel like I'm much more productive when I'm hanging out with you guys than I am when I'm not streaming. And part of it is because it gives me people to hang out with while I'm working. I don't know if that makes sense. Hopefully that does. And if you guys haven't yet, you should definitely check out. Dylan said, how many pages is a graphic novel supposed to have? It's going to be over 200 pages. This will be the longest graphic novel I've done. Which, like, if you talk to somebody like friend of the show, Dave Baker, of a friend of the Artcasters, that's a very short book, is 200 and something pages. But for me, that's the biggest. That'll be the longest graphic novel I've done. And so we're at this point pretty much at the dead halfway point. But there's a specific amount I need to get done every month in order to hit my deadline. And we're over deadline already. Like, we got some extensions on it. So partially because the publisher's like really liking the art. Because like, even when I'm under deadline, it's like I have gotten to a point in my art career, at least as a cartoonist, where it's like, look, the likelihood of a graphic novel selling wild numbers is not impossible, but it's real slim. And so if you're going to be making books, you need to make the best books you can make. That's where I'm at now. And so if that means getting an extension to kind of make better art, that's going to happen, because it's like, I don't want to just, now keep in mind, if it's like a freelance scenario, then you just kind of compromise and hit what you can. And still, it's not like I'm making everything as amazing as I could. Like, there's a point where you draw the line and you call a page finished, but I don't see a point to working in books if you're making mediocre books when it comes to creator-owned projects. Like, make the best things you can make with your creator-owned stuff. And definitely, I don't see a value in compromising. And luckily, my publisher agrees with me on that, so that's good. Yeah, because I don't want to compromise the quality of the work. Like, I want to make good books for you guys. Like, the people who do read my stuff, or if somebody hasn't yet, it's like, hopefully it's pretty clear that I put a lot of love into what I do. And so, even if it's not going to sell like an incredible amount, or if it does sell an incredible amount, regardless, I want people to be able to look at my work and go, yeah, like, he put his A game into that. Because I've done enough commercial art to where it's like, you have to kind of cut corners and stuff like that to hit commercial deadlines. But what I'm working on right now, well, yes, it's going to be for a publisher and stuff like that. This is creator owned, so it's like, I want this to be hitting all the points that I need it to hit to be a good book. I want this to be a good book. Without cutting too many corners. Like, it's going to have to cut some corners, but I don't want this to cut too many corners at the cost of quality. We're compromising the vision of what this is going to be. Anyhow, that's a long-winded way of saying I have a lot of pages to do this weekend. But they're going to take time. And a lot of time that I don't have. So that's why I'll be streaming a lot. Plus, it's just fun to hang out with you guys. Anyhow, did that answer your question, Dylan, or was that too rambly? Because, like, I am kind of slightly sleep deprived, so my answers might be a little bit rambly. Anyone who knows me knows when I'm a little sleepy, I get very rambly and tangenty. If you guys haven't yet, check out worst places to work. My album that just came out. It's getting more listens and stuff, and I'm getting positive feedback from it. So keep going, checking it out, listening to it. Follow it on Spotify if you haven't yet. It's just under this name, Joshua Kemble. Also, check out They Don't Care About the Born. Both albums came out in the last few weeks, and I'm really very happy with them. And I can't wait to finish this horror themed album for you guys too. All right, so that's one panel. I'm gonna go ahead and play a trailer, possibly get something to drink and like water, that kind of thing. And then we'll continue in a little bit. So here is a trailer for, let's see here. We'll play the trailer for Home Shopping Crumble.
Well, thank you, Colleen. I hope your daughter Kelly does well at North Carolina State this year. Well, we got another caller on the line. Elizabeth from Phoenix, Arizona. Elizabeth, what can we do for you? Are you ready to do some shopping, girl?
Oh, yes, Terry. I am ready to do some shopping today. I'm interested in that 2-book set you have. 2 Stories and Jacob's Apartment.
Oh, well, that's a great choice.
In fact, I bought these books before. I gave a set to my grandson, Hunter. These books are amazing.
Well, they sure are, and if you buy both of them, you really get the whole feel of the whole Joshua Kemble universe. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do, Terry. These books are remarkable because, for one, you can take them anywhere. You could put them in your car, and you can go to the park or the river. We've gone to the river. My husband Taylor and I, we just love it. And I murdered my husband at the river. Yeah, I did. But these still are amazing books.
All right. We're back. We're back with a bang. We're working on page. We're using the royal we, I guess, apparently. We are working on our comic. I'm working on. We are working on page 112 of Not Death But Love, the strange supernatural story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Getting as much shading on this page done as I can before going to meet with some of my teacher buddies to kind of retcon some lesson plans for a very last minute teaching gig. Which will be fun and great. Because it's, I think I've told you guys this, but it's like, man, I left, my art directing position partially because I was just at a point in my life where I wanted to do something different than making stuff for junk piles. like I loved the stuff I did as an art director. I was very proud of the work that we did, but I felt like I lost my soul along the way a little bit. Was ready for a different path. But things have been financially pretty tight, in that transition, and we've been getting to that like real and everybody will know this who's like freelanced or done art or a creative life for a long time, where it was getting a little tight financially, a little bit tight. Not like, and this is nothing I really stress heavily over anymore. When I was a younger man, I used to really get stressed and freak out about things that I planned not working or whatever. I'm an old enough guy where it's like, and weirdly, I'm further in my faith where I just kind of trust that things will work out or they won't. and that's kind of the adventure of life. You just kind of go with it. But it is kind of neat that this came up because it is going to help us be in a much better position next year, which is pretty exciting. So, and that means more time for creative stuff and just more time for family and things like that. So overall, really great thing, but very last minute, came out of nowhere. And like anything in life, a lot of this stuff is like, what's the old statement that we've quoted before on Artcasters, where it's like, you like with the book deals and stuff, it's like you just kind of do the book, you do the work and try to do good work. And strangely, it's not The Secret or anything, because it's not like, wow, you're going to have this beautiful, like wild success story. But when you do the work and you plant your seeds or whatever, and you leave and keep working, when the harvest comes, it happens, and then you get the fruit of that. And so even this opportunity is like a lot of work that I've been putting in the last few years, and connections and people I've been meeting, and just doing good work for. And then it just kind of leads to occasional opportunities that come up that are like good opportunities, and there was some hard work behind it, but it was like so long ago, or like so many little things I planted here or there, that I almost forget the work I did to get to the thing. But anyhow, my point is, in a long-winded, kind of half asleep, slightly sleep deprived way, is that this is all good stuff, even though it's been a hectic week, but it's like also good hectic, like good news kind of stuff. And all things I enjoy. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy working with kids is really fun and rewarding. And working on books is my passion. That's my favorite thing in the world. And I've been enjoying the process, even though it's tedious and crazy and takes forever. I've been really enjoying the process of that. Yeah, I don't know. It's been an interesting year of um, things that used to stress me out being very positive. I don't know if that makes sense. And in the meantime, also being able to produce music is such a joyful thing. Um, you know, there was a point in time where I just stopped playing music for like almost like a decade, and part of it was in response to. I don't even think it was an irrational decision actually to put off music for a bit, because I got to this point in my life where I had to kind of choose a road. This is like, when I was working on my bachelor's degree, and I realized I had so many split interests that I wasn't going to achieve a lot with one interest if I split all my power. It sounds weird to say power, but or maybe power is the wrong word. If I split all my focus on like a bunch of multidisciplinary things, I felt like I would make very slow progress that may not lead anywhere. And I realized that if I was going to do art school, I would really have to like just do art school. And so I always had like guitars around and occasionally would write a song or two. But I just kind of accepted like I'm not going to be making music for a while because I have to get into this. But then it's like quite a few years ago, maybe about a decade ago now, where I kind of rediscovered my joy in playing music. And because of the fact that I put it off, and put it aside to kind of focus on my illustration and graphic design career, I had forgotten how much joy that I got out of the process of music, like that it's kind of a part of who I am. Um, and it's fun. It's like, it's like going to Disneyland. It's like a very joyful process to kind of do. And so it's been really neat to kind of, I don't know, in the last like month or so, really feel that just drive to write music for no reason other than just writing music. Like there's no objective, there's no nothing to it other than just self-expression and trying to write good songs and just have fun, like that's a kind of art that's really nice to have, to kind of balance out the other more kind of autistic stuff I do. I don't know if that makes sense. So yeah. Dylan was saying society doesn't allow us to explore our multiplicity. We can't have multiple hobbies. Well, and that's what it came down to was there was a crossroads where I realized that if I was going to do one or the other professionally, I was going to have to view the other as a hobby, and I needed to kind of focus on the professional side over the hobby. And I'd still agree with that. Like if I talked to a young man or something who was really split in their focus, I would encourage them to really boil down and get really good at one thing. It's not bad to have multiple talents and to use them all, um, but I actually agree with the old me of like, I think at that time in my life, if I had split my focus, I don't think I would have gotten to the point where I can work professionally on comics or on art. And so it's like this weekend, even I have to work on some roughs for a client, and it's like that would just never be the case if I hadn't focused as hardcore as I did on learning the fundamentals of design, illustration. But I do think that there's value to be had to enjoying different art forms. Like there's nothing wrong with painting just to paint. And I see that a lot with like it's been fun the age my kid is at where he'll have like little projects that he comes up with. Like he's working on these Among Us figures and stuff. And it's like he's not doing these for money or for like career or anything like that. He's just having fun. And it's like that's the thing that I think I've been enjoying about the music thing is I've gotten to the point where first off, like I am now able to play stuff that I wasn't when I was younger. I'm not a great musician by any means, but I'm not bad. Like I can play some stuff and some things that I was not ever able to play when I was younger. And so like what I'm able to do is a lot more fun. But the other thing is just kind of bringing in enjoyment again into life, because that I think was the biggest issue I was having with as an art director was I wasn't enjoying the process. And I enjoy hard work. Like right now I am enjoying this hard work of working on this book. But I feel like if you're working hard, um, and you're not enjoying it and you have the option to work hard somewhere else and enjoy it for a little less money, I think that's where I'm at now, which is funny because that's kind of where I was at when I was younger. When I first started freelancing, because I did freelance for a good like 20 years or something, and that's all I did. And part of why I made that choice when I was younger was like, I'm not like an office job guy. I whatever I do, I don't think I'm a cubicle guy. I don't think that's me. And I'm not good at kissing rings. I'm really not good at kissing rings. And so it's like, those are two things that are just kind of ingrained in me where it's like, I kind of, like there's not a certain amount of money that makes either of those things worthwhile. And weirdly enough, not to even criticize those things, I just don't think it's in my blood to be able to do. Like I think it's like I guess a good example is like for a creative to not be creative is like a slow death. It can be a slow death. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's a ramble. But it's been so fun to feel reinvigorated, like creatively, and also to be enjoying the hard work I'm doing. Like teaching's hard work, but I'm really, I feel good about it. Like there's hard days sometimes and all of that, but it's like I have a passion for it. Like it's fun. It's exciting. It's reinvigorating. So yeah. So there's that. And then this comic, it's so crazy the amount of work that goes into this book, but I'm really loving the process, you know. And similarly, you know, the music thing is fun. It's work, but it's like stuff I like doing. Dylan was saying, I just had a thought, so it's not fully fleshed out. He said, you know how people say we need capitalism because humans need to work? We don't need work. We need to have fun. And if we had a more fluid society, he's saying, I think we'd have a more sustainable society. And he said, there's probably more to this, but the train of thought left. I can understand that. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I am still a firm believer in the idea of if your goal in life is just to have fun, you're going to have a hard life, right? Because life is not always fun. Like horrible things happen, you know? And you know, it's like that ghost song that I wrote or whatever. We're all future ghosts, okay? So, and that's not fun. That's just not fun. And we're all going to get older and have pain and stuff like that. So, you know, everything in life isn't going to be fun. And if you design your life around just having fun, you're going to have a very hard life. That's not going to be very fun. However, it doesn't mean you have to hate the work that you have to do. And this gets into that like weird Ecclesiastes kind of thing where it's like you can enjoy your toil under the sun. You're going to have to toil. Like in life, you're going to have to work. You know, and that's not even necessarily a fault of capitalism. It's like to eat food, you have to work. Like to prepare a meal, you have to work. Like to have a house, you have to work. Like everything is work. But you know, it's possible for it to be meaningful, and I think even if it's something you don't like, and I think part of that is ethically being okay with what you're doing. I think that makes a big difference. Because even if you're working like cooking short order food or something, right? But you know that you're making decent food for people, you know, it's like that's a job you could go home and sleep at night, you know. But if you find yourself in a scenario where like you're just ethically wounding yourself every time you go to work, that's, I think that's where it's like that can I think that's a slow death for creatives. So I think that's where it becomes. I guess that's what I mean by fun, because I'm a very I enjoy having fun, right? I think fun is a good part of life. We should probably enjoy things, right? Because again, like life is going to get hard, and so why shouldn't you enjoy, you know, the moments you have when you're able? Something I think about a lot too as I get older, it's like, you know, I'm probably not always going to be able to walk, you know? Um, so like how lame would it be if I get to an age where I can't walk and I think of all the time I had with functional legs where I could walk, you know, and what did I do with that time? That's what I want to be, is like at a point where I know I kind of did the most with what I've been given, and didn't squander my time. But also, I want to work somewhere where I can take joy in my labor. I don't know if that makes sense. And I think that's the key. Is joy is a better word, in my opinion, than fun. Does that make sense? Good example. One of the most joyful moments in my life was my son coming into being. You know, and that was painful for my wife, and for me. It was not nearly as painful for me, like physically, but it was exhausting having a newborn, and all that stuff was a wild ride. The first 4 months of early 4 months of having a kid, I don't know how any parents, including myself, get through that, but you do. But there is so much joy in it. And so that's what I'm getting at. It's like there's something deeper than fun in it. And if you forget to have fun when you're able, I think that can be a real danger too. Anyhow, that's me rambling. Dylan was saying joy is a better word. Yeah, so that's what I'm getting at. Is like I think joy is finding joy in what you're doing. I don't know. But there's also something great about music, and also, like, for people who aren't born to kiss rings, I think that's a dangerous scenario if you end up in a scenario where you're compromising too much, what do we have here, which is what I wrote that whole album about. All right, guys, I need to take another quick break, and I'm going to go for another 20 minutes. And then whether we finish this page or not, I'm going to call this stream because I got to go do lesson plans in 20 minutes from now. So we got about 20 minutes left of the stream. Let's go till about 2:10. Right now it's 1:50. I'm going to play a trailer, and then we'll come back and get as far as we can.
We know that Georgia kids say the craziest thing.
So, little Susie, do you have any brothers or sisters? I understand you're in 3rd grade. How do you like that? Do you like your teacher? You like to do a lot of fun things at school? You got any hobbies, Susie? Any things you like to do when you're not in school? I hear you like to read.
Well, right now I'm reading 2 stories written and illustrated by Joshua Kemble. It grapples with faith and mental illness. It's ultimately a story about redemption. It's a savage piece of writing. Also, I just finished up Jacob's Apartment, another one by Kemble. Jacob's Apartment weaves together elements of spiritualism and relationship dynamics, as well as atheism, and all the while it deals with abandonment and loyalty. It's a fierce, fierce read.
Do you like ponies?
So you know what I'm thinking of? It's going to sound kind of cliche or whatever, but it's like my wife is really in love with A Christmas Carol, I can't even remember which production of it, but it's like an old BBC version of it. And then also the Muppets Christmas Carol, which is awesome. But the message of that, it's like, it's so funny that it's like this huge thing in our society. I think almost everybody's familiar with A Christmas Carol and just kind of forgets the message of that, like the whole point of that. Right? It's like I don't know, that's meaningful stuff, as corny as it is. It's like, if your life is, lost in the pursuit of money, um, you're going to miss all the value along the way, right? I know a lot of wealthy, miserable people. And yet I think our society, because of this, is where I think Dylan, I'm just kind of riffing on what you were saying, and I'm a little sleepy. So if I'm not making sense, let me know. But it's like, I feel like materialism is a problem. I think materialism is a real problem because there's more substance than the material. And I think that's what's so great about something like music, where it's like, it's kind of immaterial. The process of even making music is such a weird, like, middle finger in the face of practicality, you know? I mean, what does music serve? Music serves, something a little more innate in us. Dancing's a good example, right? Why do people dance? It's such a weird thing to do. It has no, it may, well, I mean, I guess there's some commercial value to it, but my point is, it's entertainment. It's like having fun, enjoying yourself, having joy. Yeah. So anyhow, I feel like there's a few years there where I forgot that part of things. Okay, we have about 10 minutes left on the stream. Do me a favor, if you guys are listening to this still, despite my weird ranty rambles and stuff, make sure you hit that like button and that subscribe button, and that bell so you get notifications when we go live. If you like supporting indie work, make sure you've checked out Two Stories and Jacob's Apartment, my two graphic novels that are currently out. They're made by a human being, and they're very human stories. And in the wake of AI, I think that's a good thing to support. Also, if you like rock and roll, that goes from, kind of sincere and very like confessional to all the way to just like fun and just straight up rock and roll. Check out Worst Places to Work. It's an album dedicated to horrible workplaces and some of the problems of capitalism, like kind of dehumanizing people. And then also check out They Don't Care About the Born, which is all over the place. Has songs about love in the apocalypse, songs about some of the things in politics, like proxy wars and war profiteering. Check that out. They both came out in the last month, and I'm very proud of both albums. I think they're pretty cool things. And yeah, and honestly, if you listen to those, all I ask is, like, they're on streaming platforms everywhere. Just, follow it on whatever device you're listening to it on Spotify or whatever. If you want to kick me a couple bucks for the songs that I've made, the best way to do that would be just buy it. Like, just buy the album on like Apple Music or iTunes if you still buy albums. And if not, just, follow it on whatever platform and like it and all that fun stuff, because it helps more people find the stuff. And that's the whole point of making music, is for people to hear. We're yelling into the void, guys. We're yelling into the void to say something, because we can. That's what we're doing when we're making music. We're touching the divine. And when we're making art, right, we're reaching for something further. And I'm being corny. That happens when I'm sleep deprived as well. All right. So we'll go for another 10 minutes. I'm going to see how far I can get. It doesn't look like I'm going to actually finish the shading on this page yet. But make sure, obviously, that you're subscribed and stuff like that, because I will be streaming and working for the next few days, like pretty nonstop, because I have a lot to do. A lot to do. a lot of art to make. And it's kind of one of those scenarios where it has to get done. So, what else? How are you guys doing, by the way, in this last 10 minutes? Dylan was saying, the question is, does the void answer back? That's what I'm getting at. I'm putting this stuff out there in the void, and I'm asking you guys to check it out and let me know your thoughts. And if it hits home and it's interesting to you, support it somehow, you know? Yeah. Indie work needs indie support, you know what I mean? And I'm definitely making very indie rock and then somewhat indie comics, you know? Well, they're indie comics. What else? What else? Yeah, and then hopefully we can work on, like, here's a more optimistic thing when it comes to concerns about the country or whatever it is. I don't know, you know, like, my kid's pretty awesome. He's gonna be a good citizen. He'll be a good person. And hopefully contribute good things and not be a jerk to people, right? We can do that. That's always that's something you can do in a whatever kind of government or society you have, right? Is like try to raise decent human beings, you know? Yeah. I'm pretty excited about this scene and how it's coming out. It is taking a while, but that's okay. That's how these things go. I have this kind of older gentleman who's smoking a pipe in the corner here. All right, we'll continue. Kind of add a cast shadow under him. One thing I'd also say, when people are working on art, if you're ever working on comics or drawing or illustration, graphic design, that kind of thing, one of the best things you can ever do is add a shadow under a character. Having no shadows, having no cast shadow under where someone's standing makes them look like they're floating. And it is amazing how much just adding, even if it's just an approximation of a shadow, can add to the depth of your art. Is just having like something, like light's going to cause something to happen there, unless they're standing on, you know, like a transparent floor with a giant beam of light underneath it that's causing no shadow to be cast. But in general, yeah, just even if you're working super cartoony, you'll notice this in the better cartoons too, like early, you know, Looney Tunes and stuff like that, where it's like, you'll see the shadow is drawn. Like it rarely are you going to see, even on like a cell shaded cartoon, where, at least back in the day, where characters are just kind of floating on a background, you know, with no shadow underneath them. So the shadow thing is a huge thing. If you ever catch yourself drawing and going, why do my figures look like they're kind of floating? That's why. Because, like, the human eye, there are some things you can cheat in art, but, like, that is one of those ones where you're presented with reality so often. The reality of people seated on a background. And we see shadow so often that we almost forget about it. And I think a lot of young artists will forget to have it. But the human eye, like, immediately knows something strange if there's no cast shadow underneath a human. Anyhow, that's not like a crazy profound art tip, but I would recommend it for anybody who's just starting. And I've got a good 5 minutes left to work on this before I have to go eat, shower, and then get some lesson plan action going. All right, we have a decent amount of progress on this page. I don't think this page is going to take a crazy amount of time when I'm able to come back to finish it. But yeah, definitely make sure you're subscribed and you've got that bell, and I'll be back to finish this like Arnold Schwarzenegger, okay? I'm going to come back with a vengeance. Me from the future is going to go back to this past page to save John Connor after I've tried to kill John Connor. That's basically what's gonna happen here. All right, I gotta get this going. Okay, and then we're gonna erase this. Thank you guys. I really do appreciate everybody who watches these streams. I value you guys. I hope you're having some creatively fulfilled days, and I hope this has offered you something, some kind of entertainment or company while you're working. And I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys later today if you're still on the YouTubes. So have a good one. Bye.